welcome to Cabin Fever Crochet with me, Helene. I appreciate you all for being here, those that are returning and coming here for the first time. And just want to say, in case anyone asks about my hat, I do have a link below to one that is similar, which will be more appropriate going into the spring and summer season, and it's a little baseball cap with the optional ponytail port. This one I did in a little bit different, thicker stitch at the top, a little bit heavier weight, warmer weight yarn for the cooler time. That I will get to that a little bit later, sometime in the near future. And also I want to say that I am, and I do talk with my hands a lot, yes, I'm a problem solver by nature. And I like to figure things out, how things work, and when I'm learning something new, and it helps me to understand the mechanisms of it and how to go from point A to point B, and especially if I am designing my own or figuring out and problem solving, and that is even if it takes a little bit of a roundabout way to get there. And I apply that to most things in my life, and a picture in my mind, my end result where I need to be, and then I take one step at a time how to get there. So today it's about choosing yarns for projects. Like if you have, for example, with this blanket stitch that I came up with, and it was because I wanted to use up yarn that I already have for like the 90%, the most part of it. So when this is all said and done, I'm going to have 5 to 6 different types and brands of yarn. They are all a number 4, a medium weight, but as you know, they can vary a lot from brand to brand, yarn to yarn, and fiber to fiber. So what I did, playing around with this, having the side edges very even and uniform. So that way I can add a border or not if I choose to. And it's all going to hold together and feel pretty much the same. And I do have some notes here to make sure I cover everything, okay? So I make sure that I am picking yarns that aren't too far apart in the weight and the amount that you get per the same amount of the skein, ball, or hank. For example, a sport weight at 300 yards per standard 100 gram ball, 3.5 ounces, paired with a DK. So I've got the sport at 300 and the DK maybe at 250 yards. So there's not a big disparity between the two. That helps a lot. And however, regarding pairing yarns, sometimes you can double up 2 strands. For example, there's a standard rule of thumb that 2 number 3 lights will equal that of 1 number 4 worsted, 2 medium number 4 worsted equals 1 bulky, and so on. However, in my experience, even though that is a general rule, it rarely works out for me unless I'm using the exact same brand and type of yarn. And they might offer that in both, say, a DK weight, a number 3, and a medium weight. Sometimes that can work out, but usually it becomes too thick. Putting the two together becomes thicker than the 1 number 4. And in all the different types of yarns that I have, and that is because yarns vary so much in fiber, density, how they're spun, and how they are wound. So what I did to help offset that is I choose stitches or a stitch pattern or a written pattern, whatever it is, that has more varying texture. And for example of that, and this is what I did here. I went with, and I will be coming out with this stitch pattern also as I get to that. And it can be used for a blanket or a scarf. But the main thing here is showing you what I did, and that is the back side. So I came up with, to achieve what I had in my mind to make all these different yarns work, and even though they are all a medium number 4, some are thicker, some are thinner, some are more densely spun and making them more structured, while others are more light and airy and giving them a lot more drape. And so I combined cluster stitches, cross stitches, which the cross stitches act almost like a post stitch because you have the double thickness as they cross, so it gives more substance to that. And the clusters give a lot of texture, and they also add thickness. So I'm looking for variance in texture. And then this is also with some double crochet and V-stitches in there. And so I look at patterns or stitch patterns if I'm going to design my own for that. And this helps create an overall substance so that the thinner yarn is less wimpy and holds up to the heavier or the little bit thicker or more dense yarn or something that's spun more tightly. And then third and final, I try out a swatch using both yarns and a couple of different hook sizes to determine which gives the most consistent and the best results. I generally go with what is recommended on the ball band, the hook size for that yarn. And generally speaking, you have to use your own judgment to a degree because some are pretty like right on with that, and brands, the ball bands, and others are way far off. Say maybe I would use a 5mm hook and it calls for a 6mm. So you can play around with that, but I will generally speaking go with the recommended size for the thinner, lighter yarn of the two, and then I go down one hook size for the thicker, more dense yarn, as long as it's not so thick and so compacted. And I did that with my Knot, K-N-O-T, So Granny shawl. And I went with cluster stitches on this, and they're both considered a number 5, but I would say more of a lighter bulky. And this is Michael's Loops and Threads yarn in their Barcelona, and then I had some leftover in a James C. Brett chunky marble, and that was a little bit thicker. And when I use the same hook size, I could really see that on the edges and then the size of the stitches as well. And that might be okay, again, depending on the project, but I wanted this to be a little more uniform, so I went down one hook size for the little bit thicker yarn, and that worked out really well. And that is what I did with the blanket. I am using, for the main color, I'm using Lion Brand Pound of Love in their antique white. And then I am using Red Heart Soft, Hobby Lobby, I love this yarn. Heartland, which is very soft and drapey and more lightly spun. And then this, again, Red Heart Soft, and I have a couple of others I might work into that depending on how much I use. So I went with the color in between. I'm calling these Antique White, that's my main color. So I went down to an H, and I just made sure I kept very consistent with my tension. That is very important with your own tension. And maybe just a little bit lighter hand on that. So use my own hand when I did my stitches. A little bit easier to make sure that I wasn't over tightening that stitch and kind of trying to go for somewhere in between. So I went with the H, the 5mm, and then I went up to an I 5.5mm on all the colors, and you can see how that worked out really, really well. And this is where I am so far on the blanket, and I will continue to show my progress on that, and it's when it's all finished, and if I decide to put a border on it, I'm sure I'll add that to my tutorial and for the pattern. I just wanted to show you that again for now. And I can say I missed an end. So proud of myself for sewing them all in at this stage. But anyway, that's another story. So that's it. I just wanted to share with you for today's episode. Take care, everyone. Hope you have a great day, evening, or morning, wherever you are. Please come back again soon, next time, okay? And subscribe, thumbs up, share, and hit that notification bell so you'll be reminded of all my future uploads. All right, take care, and I will see you soon.